So what happens in the cell cycle? Well, the first phase of the cell cycle is interphase. Interphase actually has 3 phases within it, or 3 stages. The first one is called G1, and this is the gap phase. So in this phase, basically, we've got 2 new cells, and they're entering the G1 phase. And so this is where they're going to be living their life and growing. So doing, metabolism and things like that. There is a GO phase with this, or a G naught phase. And this is where, this is cells that do not divide. So if you have a cell that doesn't divide, like let's say a red blood cell, they're going to enter the G phase, the GO phase, or G naught phase, and that's where they're going to stay. Okay, they don't divide. The next part of this is the S phase, or synthesis phase. And this is where we'd have DNA replication occur. So we've got our little chromosomes, and they become sister chromatids together. So they go from that to that. All right, the final phase is the G2 phase. And during this phase, the cell prepares for division. And during all of this, there are certain checkpoints that the cell goes through that basically tells the cell, yes, you need to go ahead and go through division, or no, we're not doing that. Okay, so there's also that going on as well. All right, if the cell is going to go through division, that's when it enters mitosis. So mitosis then has 4 phases, and then a time where the cell actually splits apart. So the first one is prophase. So what happens during prophase? Well, prophase, the chromatin condense into chromosomes. The nuclear envelope goes away. It dissolves. The centrioles make microtubules. That will eventually be, or that will be the spindle. And they separate to go to opposite sides of the cell. So the centrosomes migrate to opposite poles of the cell. Okay, so that's all of prophase. The second part or the second phase, is metaphase. So once it's done all this stuff from prophase, it enters metaphase. And the chromosomes attach to the microtubules. So the microtubules of this spindle that's creating, right? And then once the chromosomes are attached to the microtubules and we've got this spindle going, those tubules, so the microtubules, push the chromosomes into the center line of the cell. So at this point, so if we have our little cell here, right, and we have this little center line here, and we're making, see, we've got these little this is the spindle tubules that are coming from the centrosomes here. And the tubules have the chromosomes stuck to them. So these chromosomes are being pushed toward the center. So they're being pushed this way and that way until they line up at the center. Okay, so once they're lined up, we have our little cell. And our little line is here. And our little guys are lined. That is called the metaphase plate. So that is the metaphase plate. Once that occurs, that plate where they're in a line right there along the center, then the microtubules then pull apart the sister chromatids, and half of them go here and the other half go here to this side. So that's, once that occurs, once they pull apart, then we're in anaphase. So in anaphase phase, sister chromatids are split. So we have our little cell. Here's our little spindle. And then here's our chromatids, our sister chromatids. Now they're split in half. And these are all so these are going to this part of the cell, and these are going to that pole of the cell. Okay? And that's what happens in anaphase. once they are all to either side of the cell where the centrosomes are, then we enter telophase. And telophase is just the opposite or reverse of prophase. So we have to unravel the chromosomes, and we have to make a nuclear envelope, and the nucleolus, and then once that occurs, so we have our cell here, and now the chromosomes are up here and they're starting to come apart, right? And we're starting to get, a nucleus here and a nucleus here, and getting things together there. And then at the end of telophase, then the cell starts to get a little furrow there, a cleavage furrow in it. And then finally it'll go through cytokinesis. And that's where it officially divides and becomes two identical daughter cells. All right. And then once it goes through cytokinesis and its two daughter cells, they enter the G1 phase of interphase. So that is the life cycle of the cell.